Theo had always considered himself remarkably average, which was why finding himself dangling from a maintenance hatch in the middle of the derelict Star Station Alpha seemed like an exceptional kind of misfortune. Gravity flickered in the hallways, lights stuttered like indecisive fireflies, and the soft hum of life support systems felt like a lullaby that had been slightly tuned to a horror soundtrack. He kicked his legs, trying to get the hatch to give way, which only succeeded in catapulting him forward into a pile of something sticky and dark. "Great," he muttered, peeling himself off the unidentified goo. "First time I visit a haunted space station, I get goo. Fantastic." A metallic clang echoed behind him, followed by a soft hiss, like a snake that forgot its own etiquette. He spun, half expecting a malfunctioning cleaning bot or a stray robot vacuum, but there she stood. Lysera, the alien woman who looked almost human, except for her ears, long, elegant, and twitching like twin antennae that measured both danger and curiosity. Her eyes glowed faintly, reflecting the dim light as if she could see through every fiber of his being. She tilted her head, crossing her arms in a gesture that was simultaneously disdainful and amused. "Why are you still alive?" she asked, her voice soft, almost melodic but carrying the weight of judgment. Theo coughed, wiping the goo from his jacket. "A habit," he said, then immediately grimaced. That sounded like a bad sitcom punchline, which was about the only thing keeping him from panicking entirely. "I mean, literally, I'm still breathing. Technically speaking, alive, not dead. Yet." He forced a grin. "Not like dead, just alive deadish." Her ears twitched in a rhythm he couldn't quite decode, and for a moment he wondered if she was laughing silently at him. "Alive deadish," she repeated, the corner of her mouth lifting, though very subtly. "Interesting phrasing, very human. I suppose most would have been obliterated by now." Theo gestured vaguely toward the corridor they stood in. "This place." "Yeah, I was hoping for tea and biscuits, but apparently the extreme danger and sporadic laser turrets package comes standard." He tried to sound casual but ended up flailing a bit too much, nearly falling over a loose panel. "I swear I just have really good luck and maybe a touch of genius." He paused, or maybe stupidity, one of those two. Lysera didn't respond, only tilted her head again, her eyes narrowing in calculation. "Luck is a poor shield," she said. "You should not have survived the corridor collapse, the malfunctioning security drones, or the vacuum breach in Sector 7. Her tone was calm, factual, but the twitch of her ears betrayed a trace of curiosity, maybe even something resembling amusement. Theo rubbed the back of his neck. "I have a theory," he said, "that the universe secretly likes me, or it just hates the space station maintenance team. Either way, here I am." He attempted a small bow, wobbling on the uneven floor. "Lucky or cursed to meet you." She stepped closer, and the faint hum of her presence made the hair on his arm stand up. Her figure was almost human, but everything about her moved with a grace that made his knees threaten to betray him. "You think survival is trivial?" she asked, voice low. "You have been tested repeatedly and yet continue to exist. That is unusual." Theo shrugged, which earned him a soft clink of amusement from her, a small, almost musical sound that made him feel like he'd been complimented or threatened. "I just like to keep things interesting," he said. "Besides, who else is going to make jokes about this place? Someone has to keep morale high. You've got the grace, the glowing eyes, the long ears," he caught himself, "fine antennae, but can you make a mean joke about a rogue anti-gravity toilet?" "Didn't think so." For a heartbeat she stared at him, unblinking, and then her ears twitched rapidly twice, and she emitted a sound that Theo could only interpret as laughter, though it was airy and alien like wind across a crystal. "You are peculiar," she said, voice still melodic. "Your persistence is remarkable or foolish, perhaps both." Theo grinned. "I like to aim for a balance, keeps life spicy. Plus, if you didn't notice, I have a penchant for surviving against all odds, kind of my brand." He offered a hand, forgetting that in this moment such gestures were completely illogical. Theo, human. Expert in surviving mostly everything. Lysera's ears twitched again, almost contemplatively. Perhaps I should monitor this human further, she said, or experiment. Her gaze flicked toward the corridor that had swallowed at least 3 unlucky engineers in the past hour. Follow me. If you survive my tests, perhaps you will finally earn answers. Theo hesitated. He had never followed a strange alien woman with antennae before, much less in a crumbling space station filled with malfunctioning doors, rogue drones, and the faint possibility of spontaneous combustion. But her expression, serious but tinged with amusement, left little room for debate. "All right," he said, trying to sound confident while stepping over a sparking conduit. "Lead the way. Hopefully your tests don't involve actual death. I'm not a fan of permanent sleeping arrangements." As they moved through the station, Theo could feel the uncanny intelligence in her every step. Her presence commanded attention, yet it was oddly comforting, like being dragged through danger by someone who genuinely knew what they were doing, even if that someone occasionally glared at him for tripping over his own feet. "So," he said, trying to fill the silence, "do all your people have these ears, or am I special? You seem unique." Lysera glanced at him, one eyebrow, or the alien equivalent of one, lifting. "They are common to my kind," she said, voice smooth. "But you are uncommon." She paused. "Your survival has drawn my attention. That is why I question you." Theo swallowed. "So in layman's terms, I'm basically your favorite science experiment." She let out that soft, crystalline sound again, like laughter wrapped in curiosity. "Perhaps," she said. "Or perhaps you are simply an anomaly the universe wishes to observe. Either way, keep your humor. It will serve you." And so they walked, Theo dodging loose wiring and muttering to himself about improbable survival odds, and Lysera observing him with the sharp precision of someone used to studying anomalies. Sparks flew, lights flickered, and drones occasionally buzzed by, missing them by inches. Somewhere deep inside, Theo realized that his life had just gotten infinitely more complicated, but somehow also more interesting. And maybe, just maybe, surviving this station's absurdity could be fun, if he kept making jokes, kept keeping his nerve, and somehow, against all odds, kept himself alive long enough to answer the question that now hung between them like charged particles in zero gravity. Why was he still alive? Theo shuffled along the narrow corridor, glancing nervously at the panels that occasionally sparked with static. Lysera moved ahead of him, her steps measured, elegant, ears twitching in a rhythm he couldn't decode. Every now and then she'd glance back, eyes glowing faintly, as if checking on the fragile anomaly trailing behind her. "Do you always follow strangers into collapsing space stations?" Theo asked, voice echoing slightly against the metal walls. Lysera didn't turn around, only replied, "I do not follow strangers, I follow anomalies." Her ears flicked, signaling something he guessed meant pay attention. Theo nodded as if that explained anything. "Right, an anomaly, got it. I'm basically the cosmic equivalent of a cat stuck in a vacuum cleaner." He paused. "Except less fluff, definitely less fluff." They reached a junction where the gravity field wavered, and Theo floated slightly before crashing into a maintenance hatch. "See," he said, clinging to the rail. "Perfect survival skills. Impressive, huh?" Lysera's lips twitched. "You are fortunate," she said, and for a moment Theo wondered if she had just smirked. Then a drone word passed, sparks flying where its sensors malfunctioned, and Theo dove behind a bulkhead. "Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. This place hates me, or likes me, hard to tell." As they proceeded, Theo tried to break the silence. "So you watch humans a lot, right? Do you keep a catalog, a scrapbook? Little alien sticky notes that say, 'This human survived an exploding cafeteria.'" Lysera paused mid-step, her ears tilting sharply. "Observations are not frivolous," she said. "We note patterns, strengths, weaknesses, survivals. You defy patterns. That is why I am curious." Theo raised both hands. "I'm defying patterns. That's my brand. Next up, surviving an anti-gravity toilet while juggling plasma grenades. Pretty daring, right? Lysera's head tilted slightly, and for the first time, Theo caught a glimmer of amusement, or maybe disbelief, in her glowing eyes. They entered a chamber filled with broken machinery, tubes leaking an odd greenish fluid and floating dust particles reflecting the dim light. Theo stepped carefully over puddles that hissed and popped. "You know," he said, "this is starting to look less like a space station and more like a cosmic science fair gone horribly wrong. I half expect a sign saying, 'Welcome to Space Disaster 3000. Lysera's ears twitched again. "Do you find humor useful?" she asked, stepping over a sparking wire with unnatural grace. "Absolutely," Theo said. "Keeps the existential terror at bay. Also, it confuses alien women with long ears. Works every time." He immediately regretted the joke, but she only tilted her head, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. "Confusion is acceptable," she said. "Your humor is an anomaly as well. It may be why you continue to survive." Theo grinned, brushing a bit of dust from his jacket. "I call it the art of distracting fate with sarcasm." He floated slightly as the gravity shifted again. "See, art." They reached an observation deck, windows cracked and lined with frost. Outside, the dying star cast streaks of red and orange across the void, and Theo couldn't help but comment. "Nice view. Really sets the mood for near-death experiences and awkward alien conversations." Lysera leaned on the railing, arms crossed, ears flicking. "You should not be here," she said quietly. "Most would have perished long before reaching this level." Theo tapped the railing dramatically. "But I'm here, against all odds, still talking, still making bad jokes. You should take notes. This is history or comedy, maybe both." They descended another corridor that twisted like a serpent, lights flickering erratically. Theo accidentally kicked a panel, sending sparks flying. "Yep, definitely history, definitely comedy." Lysera stopped suddenly, one hand hovering over a console. "Sensors detect another breach," she said. "A drone patrol. You cannot outrun them." Theo laughed a little too loudly. "Outrun. My survival plan today involves hiding behind malfunctioning crates, using gravity as my personal trampoline, and possibly lying about being dead. Pretty sophisticated, right?" Lysera's ears twitched sharply. "You rely on improvisation rather than calculation. Fascinating." Theo smirked. "Improvisation is a survival skill, very human, not recommended for aliens with perfectly designed limbs and glowing eyes, but for humans, essential." The drone patrol appeared around a corner, hovering silently, scanning. Theo dove behind a floating crate. Lysera stepped forward with fluid grace, touching the drone's hull. Sparks erupted, and it drifted helplessly toward the wall. "I suppose you could call that intervention," Theo said, brushing himself off. She glanced at him, ears flicking with what Theo decided must be amusement. "You are unpredictable," she said. "I cannot determine if your survival is luck or instinct, or foolishness, perhaps all three." Theo grinned, floating slightly as gravity shifted again. "Oh, definitely all three. I like to keep it interesting. You should try it sometime. It's thrilling, also terrifying." They continued down the twisting corridors, Theo making jokes about floating toilets and derelict vending machines, while Lysera studied him with precision. Every time he dodged debris or narrowly avoided a collapsing panel, she observed, her long ears twitching, her glowing eyes following his improbable path. Finally, they reached a small chamber, illuminated by flickering emergency lights. Theo sank onto a bench, breathing hard. "So what now? You interrogate me, conduct experiments, teach me alien yoga." Lysera stepped closer, her presence commanding, yet somehow comforting. "I will observe," she said. "Your persistence, your humor, your responses to danger. Perhaps you are a specimen worthy of further study." Theo flopped dramatically on the bench. "Specimen, huh? I always knew my awkward charm would pay off someday." He gestured at the station around them. "So, do we bond over shared near-death experiences, Or do I just keep telling bad jokes until you get bored? Lysera's lips curved slightly, a movement that Theo interpreted as a smile. You may continue, she said, her voice calm, melodic. Perhaps it is beneficial. Theo grinned, lying back and letting the emergency lights flicker across his face. Beneficial. I like the sound of that. Plus, I've got an unlimited supply of bad jokes and questionable survival skills. It's a full package. And so, amidst the sparks, the malfunctioning lights and the eerie hum of the station, they sat together, human and alien, laughter and curiosity mingling, preparing for the next test, the next danger, the next improbable moment of survival that Theo somehow knew he would make a joke through. The question of why he remained alive hovered in the air, unanswered, yet softened by humor and the unspoken bond that had begun to form between them. Long ears twitching, human smirking, and both bracing for whatever the station could throw next. Theo floated through the narrow shaft of the star station, gripping a handrail as gravity shifted unpredictably. Sparks hissed from a damaged conduit overhead, showering him with tiny electric arcs, and he yelped, flailing, narrowly avoiding a collision with a floating crate. Lysera moved beside him, her ears twitching rhythmically, unbothered by the chaos, as if the environment itself obeyed her silent command. Seriously, Theo said, dodging another arc, do you ever get tired of walking through death traps like this? I feel like I should be handing out pamphlets. Welcome to Space Station Apocalypse, free survival tips inside. Lysera's lips curved faintly, and for a brief moment, her usual precision softened into something resembling amusement. Your humor is persistent, she said. It may yet be the key to your survival, or merely a sign of foolishness. Theo shrugged, glancing around at the walls peeling and sparking. Sometimes the line between clever and stupid is very thin, usually thinner than a fusion laser filament. He pushed himself along the corridor, dodging another falling pipe. I like to keep life interesting. They reached the main control hub, a vast room where shattered consoles hovered midair, wires dangling like nervous snakes, and the low hum of failing systems set a rhythm for the chaos. Theo floated in, brushing some dust off his jacket. All right, he said, so what's the plan here? Press random buttons and hope the universe forgives us. Lysera observed him carefully. The data core is critical. It may hold answers to your continued survival and the anomalies surrounding you. We must retrieve it, but the structure is unstable. Theo scratched his head, floating upside down for a moment as gravity shifted again. Unstable, got it. So basically, it's a giant cosmic game of don't die while pushing buttons. I'm excellent at this game. He grinned at Lysera. I may even win trophies, or at least avoid permanent sleeping arrangements. They moved through the hub, dodging sparks and swaying conduits. Thea marveled at how fluidly Lysera navigated the danger, her long ears twitching in almost imperceptible rhythms, analyzing and predicting threats he couldn't even see. You know, he said, your people must be amazing at, well, everything. Coordinated combat, survival, precision stuff. And here I am, the human disaster package, making it look like luck. She tilted her head. Perhaps your unpredictability is beneficial. Patterns are easily calculated. Anomalies cannot be predicted. Your survival may not be chance, it may be necessary. Theo blinked. Necessary me. He glanced at her, unsure whether she meant it seriously or in that alien teasing way that made his stomach twist nervously. Well, I suppose that makes me important. That's nice to hear, though I think you just want a good story to take back to the Alien Council. Lysera's ears twitched sharply. Perhaps, or perhaps, you are a key to understanding resilience, persistence, and adaptability. Qualities rarely observed in a single human so consistently. Theo grinned despite himself. You know, that's quite flattering in a weird, terrifying kind of way. Basically, I'm the galactic poster child for stubborn survival. He floated over a section of the floor that had given way. And my brand is unstoppable, apparently. Reaching the data core. They found it suspended in a cascade of broken wires and flickering holographic projections. Theo floated forward, cautiously tapping a console. "Here goes nothing," he muttered. The screen blinked, then illuminated a map of energy signatures and station layouts. Streams of code scrolled, revealing experiments, survival patterns, and anomalies, all pointing to his repeated escapes and improbable survival. "Wow," he said, leaning closer. "So I'm not just lucky, I'm scientifically interesting." "Yay me." Lysera hovered beside him, watching intently. "These records show numerous human failures, and yet you continue. Your presence here is unprecedented. It is why I questioned your existence from the beginning." Theo tapped a floating panel again. "So basically, I've been cheating death in ways that even you didn't see coming. That's oddly empowering. And terrifying, mostly terrifying." Lysera's ears twitched softly, a subtle signal he was starting to understand as the closest thing she had to approval. "Your persistence is commendable. Perhaps you are not merely surviving, perhaps you are changing the equation itself." Theo floated back, brushing off dust and hanging wires. "Changing the equation, huh? That sounds heroic, or stupid. Either way, it's memorable." He paused. "I guess surviving isn't just about luck or reflexes, it's about improvisation and maybe humor. Who knew my bad jokes would be useful in the grand scheme of things?" Lysera studied him, eyes glowing faintly. "Your humor is more than defense. It is a mechanism for adaptation, for resilience. You are extraordinary." Theo tilted his head, grinning. "Extraordinary, I like that. Beats average human disaster package. Also, I have to admit I've grown fond of your ears. They're very expressive, almost like mood indicators, very handy in a crisis." Lysera's lips curved slightly and she reached toward him, brushing a hand near the console. "Perhaps our collaboration will continue. You survive, I learn, and together we explore possibilities." Theo chuckled. "Possibilities. I like that. Sounds like a cosmic buddy adventure. Who knew near-death experiences and alien observations could be so bonding?" A loud groan echoed through the station, as failing gravity systems began a final cascade of malfunctions. Pipes shattered, panels fell, and the room shuddered. Theo grabbed Lysera's hand instinctively. "All right, partner, time to test our survival skills one more time. Ready?" Her ears twitched sharply, signaling affirmation. "Ready. But this will require precision." Theo grinned, floating toward the collapsing exit. "Precision, yes, but also panache, flair, and maybe some really bad jokes. Let's go." They navigated the chaos together, Lysera's guidance and Theo's improvisation creating a rhythm that somehow avoided fatal mishaps. Sparks flew, conduits crashed, and the station trembled as though it wanted to expel them. But somehow, improbably, they reached the emergency bay, where an escape pod hovered, engines humming with reluctant life. Theo clambered in first, Lysera beside him. He pressed a random sequence of buttons, hoping for ignition. Lights blinked, alarms screeched, and finally the pod shot forward, leaving the derelict station behind in a trail of sparks and smoke. Theo exhaled, leaning back in his seat. "Well, we survived. Again. I'd say that's a win, right?" Lysera's ears twitched, her expression unreadable, but there was something in her glowing eyes that spoke of acknowledgement. "Indeed, you are persistent. Perhaps the universe underestimated you. Perhaps you underestimated yourself." Theo laughed softly. "I may have underestimated a lot of things, but one thing I know now, I can survive, improvise, and even make an alien with amazing ears laugh along the way. That's growth, right?" She inclined her head, a subtle gesture of approval. "Growth is evident, and your presence will continue to provide insight, both into your kind and into the mechanisms of survival." Theo smiled, looking out the viewport at the stars stretching endlessly before them. "Insight, survival, humor, and maybe a friendship. Not bad for a human who keeps tripping over his own luck." Lysera's hand brushed his lightly, a rare gesture of warmth. "Perhaps our journey is only beginning," she said, "but for now you have survived. That is enough." Theo leaned back, letting the pod drift through the stars, his mind buzzing with possibilities, humor, and newfound confidence. He had been tested, laughed through danger, and survived against odds that defied reason. And he realized finally that surviving wasn't just about luck. It was about adaptability, courage, and a willingness to face the improbable with a smirk. The pod glided silently through the cosmos, carrying human and alien alike, together exploring mysteries of survival, fate, and the strange, indestructible connection that had formed between them. Theo, still alive and still joking, felt a sense of completion, a rare blend of relief and triumph, knowing that whatever the universe threw at him next, he would face it, perhaps with humor, perhaps with caution, but certainly with life.